Hey everyone, and welcome to a new video. Today actually I'm outside because I decided that it's warm enough to finally get outside and enjoy the weather a little bit. It actually got a little bit colder today, but it's not too bad, and especially when the sun's out, it's actually quite nice in Seoul right now. We have spring, summer has actually just about started, and the last few days we had, I think, 20 degrees at some point. The weather is a little bit weird right now. We have April, and it reminds me a bit of Europe, where the weather changes like quite frequently. So the same is currently also true for Seoul, but you can really see that it's getting a lot warmer these days, even though I'm still sitting here with a jacket. I promised you in the last video blog that I would talk a little bit about what I like and what I don't like in Seoul, and that's still true, and I had a couple of stories that I already prepared. But one of the things that I don't like right now is definitely the threats from the north, and it's kind of the major topic here, not only in Korea, of course, but also if you just look at the international press, that's the one thing that is in the media everywhere. North Korea with a new threat against the US, against South Korea, and of course the responses from the American military and also from the politicians here in South Korea. So I wanted to talk about this a little bit once again, and I just went through everything that happened in the recent past. So what basically started this whole issue was that there were tests in North Korea that once again just dealt with the nuclear, well, they had nuclear tests going on, and from there on there were a few sanctions from the UN, and everything just kind of escalated when North Korea kind of threatened that they would turn Seoul into a sea of fire and, yeah, heavy military precautions and shit like that. So not really the best place to be when you are worried that the next day there could be a nuclear missile heading your way. And it's not even about the nukes themselves. Like Pyongyang and especially the North Korean border is so close to Seoul that even a normal missile attack is definitely possible and much more likely than actually North Korea being able to launch a nuclear missile. So that is one of the things that kind of dominated everything here the last few weeks. And by now it got to a point where especially my family in Europe is really, really worried about me. My father already told me, well, you should definitely at least pack a bag or whatever, so when the shit hits the fan that you can try to get out as fast as possible. A few people that I know already talked about leaving the country, but that is mostly a foreigner issue. The Koreans right now are very relaxed. It's actually kind of awesome to see how relaxed they are. If you go onto the street and you just watch the daily life here, you would not imagine that there are death threats to the citizen of South Korea, like basically every day right now. It's not noticeable at all. In other countries, when there were problems, being it a natural disaster or military threats, every single time I've seen, for example, stores being completely empty, people just panic buying everything and having a huge depots back at home to make sure that if something happens, they are prepared. Here, you don't see anything of that. If I wouldn't actually follow the international media, I would have no idea that there was anything going on in this country. And it's a little bit mind-boggling. I talked to a lot of my Korean friends about it, and they basically said, yes, they are worried. But first of all, there's not a lot that they can do about it. And second of all, they've been kind of growing up with constant threats from North Korea. So it's something they're really used to. They're a little bit more worried this time because the threats, of course, are a lot more severe than they were in the past. The demilitarized zone, for example, in Kaesong is one of the things that was always a little bit stable when it came to those conflicts, because North Korea already also profits a lot of those, but they already shut Kaesong down, so the demilitarized zone is not being used for economic trade that benefits both sides. And at the same time, of course, the hot wire to between Seoul and Pyongyang has already been completely closed down. North Korea was also trying to put a couple of missiles in position in the east, which forced South Korea then to station a few destroyers, and with anti-missile, I actually wrote down what it was, anti-missile systems. Could have come up with that myself, I guess. Just stationed them towards the mainland on China and towards the right, more towards like Japan. So in case there is a missile attack, that they can actually like intercept those missiles. So everything is heating up a little bit. China, on the other hand, they already said that they will not support North Korea in any threats here and try to intervene a little bit, but it's like really, I think, impossible at this point. And people have been arguing like it's suicidal for North Korea to actually launch an attack. And I mean, it's definitely true. As soon as North Korea does anything like attack the US with a nuclear missile or with a long-range missile attacks Seoul and South Korea, they basically fucked. I mean, the first thing that's going to happen is that they are going to be beaten into a bloody pulp. The big problem with that we have is living in Seoul here. That doesn't matter to us because we are basically like in range immediately. So the first thing that's going to happen is that the nuke is going to hit my face, like, palm, right in my face and explode. So it's nice that you guys will avenge us after that. But all this talks and all the humor that comes out from the US and also of Europe has to be taken with a little bit of a grain of salt when you actually live here, because it's definitely true. I mean, the guy is threatening and he's kind of behaving a bit like a child that is someone stole his lollipop, I don't know. But at the same time, if they really have a nuke on, and even if they don't, they still have the missiles that they can launch against Seoul. So we would be the first to suffer from that. And it's not only the people that would die in such an attack, but at the same time, it's also the damage that would be done to the city, to the economy, and to South Korea in general. As one actually of the concerns, or one of the things that angers a lot of the South Koreans here, is that the US is, of course, willing to help out in this war, but at the same time, for them, it's like, especially the American soldiers here seem to be like really eager to do something, because they are kind of fed up with the constant threats here. And I don't want to generalize. I mean, that's probably only a few of them, and the rest of them will also try to avoid a war at all costs. But that, I think, that's probably a vocal minority. But the problem that a lot of South Koreans have with this is that they actually say, well, for you guys, it's easy to talk because you're fighting a war here, and of course your lives are at stake too. But at the same time, for us, it's not only the lives of the soldiers, it's the families, it's the children, it's the entire economy. So it's a threat to the Koreans on a completely different level. It would be very different, of course, also if the US would be threatened themselves, but everyone kind of doubts that there's really the option of North Korea launching attack against the US because of the long range that the missiles would have to cover. In general, it's a really fucked up situation, and for us always the problem is a little bit that midget over there, that is North Korea, that is really like going crazy these days with his propaganda and his speeches and everything and his threats. Who's to say that at some point he's not like, yeah, fuck it, YOLO, might as well, and just presses the button? Then North Korea might go down, but we are the first ones who get obliterated by the missiles. So it's actually a little bit worrisome. I thought about leaving Korea as well. I'm not going to do it because I'm kind of reassured by how quiet and how calm the South Koreans deal with everything here. But at the same time, it worries you, especially when there's new media going down, when you have a few new news or clips where people show the troop movements and things like that. So at this point, it's not really an immediate threat, but it's definitely a huge concern to everyone that lives here. The foreigners probably a bit more concerned than the South Koreans are, because they've been dealing with this for a long time, as I already mentioned earlier. But it's definitely something that is in everyone's head, and everyone is thinking about it. So I'm not quite sure what I will do at this point. I don't have any immediate plans of leaving Korea, and I hope that everything is going to be resolved pretty soon, that South Korea will back down, or that some kind of other solution is going to be found. But it kind of looks a little bit unlikely if you see how things are going these days. A lot of the media that I've been following was stating that experts claim that, in their opinion, the only thing that North Korea is really trying to do is to put themselves on the map again, like threatening everyone with nuclear missile attacks and basically telling the world, hey, you have to notice us. We are here, and we are someone that you have to pay attention to, because one of the main policies of the US in the past apparently was to ignore North Korea as much as possible. But yeah, you can never know exactly at what point North Korea will really follow through with their threats and try to do something, even if they would go down afterwards. So it's a little bit worrisome, and definitely a topic that has been discussed quite a lot. And I've been receiving a lot of tweets on Twitter, a lot of comments on Facebook, and also on YouTube about it. So just as a bottom line, basically, everyone's concerned about the threats here. The South Koreans are worried more than they usually are, but they have dealt with this in the past. For the foreigners, it's a little bit different. It's not really a very comfortable thought that you have a neighbor that is this aggressive and really tries to make death threats with long-range missiles and nuclear missiles and stuff like this. But everyone is just kind of going down the daily routine that they have, dealing with everything as they did in the past and trying to observe what's going on. But I've already talked to a lot of people who will definitely try to get out of here as soon as something really happens, which is always easier said than done. But yeah, I'm kind of starting to ramble a little bit. I'm just trying to convey my thoughts a bit, and also express that, of course, it's something that where nobody expects something to happen, but it's a little bit weird when you receive a lot of messages where people make fun of it, and they are suddenly like, yeah, well, don't worry, like the Allied forces are so huge and North Korea is just tiny. That doesn't help the people here. That doesn't help them at all. Yeah, in the end, a war is something that North Korea would immediately lose, but the damage done to South Korea, to Seoul, and also to all the people living here, that's completely on, that's a different issue. So it's not really a reassuring thing if you talk about it like this. So people should definitely take this serious, also in the US and in Europe. But at the same time, people here, as I mentioned already, like 2 or 3 or 4 times, I should really put this to an end right now, really deal with this in a very calm way. So just to give you a little bit of an idea what's going on these days. And yeah, I'll be back with a normal vlog, hopefully very soon. And I hope by then the tension is already like evaporated and North Korea and South Korea are on better terms, and hopefully with once again peace agreement and yeah, no aggression thingy. Well, this is it for today. So guys, I'll talk to you soon, and yeah, bye bye.